The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth, from Times Square billboards to simple mobile phones, flickered and displayed the same image: a stern-faced alien with blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. People of Earth, the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice translated simultaneously into all Earth languages. "I am High Commander Wilson of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been monitored for the past century, and we have determined that your civilization requires guidance. You have 24 hours to surrender your sovereignty to the Galactic Council. Resistance will be met with force. This is not a negotiation." In the Pentagon's underground command center, General Robert Adams watched the message replay for the 10th time. His weathered face remained calm, even as younger officers around him whispered in panic. 30 years of military service had prepared him for many things, but this was different. This was what they had been secretly preparing for since the first alien signals were detected decades ago. "Get me the president," he ordered, his voice steady, "and initiate Protocol Omega." Across the globe, hidden military installations hummed to life. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, submarine commanders received encrypted messages. High above the Earth, carefully concealed satellites shifted their positions ever so slightly. Captain James Miller stood at the command center of Orbital Platform Delta, one of Earth's best-kept secrets. The station, disguised as a defunct weather satellite, was actually a state-of-the-art weapons platform. Similar stations dotted Earth's orbit, invisible to both civilian telescopes and, hopefully, alien scanners. "Status report," Miller called out to his crew of 20. "All systems operational, sir," Lieutenant Rogers responded from her console. "Weapon systems are charged and ready. Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels." Miller nodded, his eyes fixed on the massive alien ships now visible through their advanced sensors. The vessels hung in space like metal mountains, their hulls gleaming under the distant sunlight. The Council's fleet had arrived much faster than anyone had expected. In New York, the United Nations General Assembly gathered for an emergency session. Representatives from every nation filled the hall, their usual political differences forgotten in the face of this unprecedented threat. The United States President stood at the podium, her face grim but determined. "For 50 years, we have known this day might come. While we showed the world our civilian space programs, every nation here contributed to a secret planetary defense initiative. We are not the primitive species they believe us to be." In orbit, Captain Miller received new orders through quantum-encrypted channels. "Maintain stealth protocols," he read aloud to his crew. "Prepare for possible engagement. Do not fire unless fired upon." The Council's flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, moved into position above the United Nations building. A second transmission began. "Your time to decide grows short," High Commander Wilson announced. "We see your primitive weapons preparing for resistance. This would be unwise. The Council has incorporated thousands of species into its embrace. None have successfully resisted." In the Pentagon's war room, General Adams received reports from around the world. Chinese super missiles were ready for launch. European electromagnetic pulse weapons were charged. Russian space-based kinetic bombardment systems were in position. Indian cyber warfare units stood ready to attack alien computer systems. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "the alien ships are powering up their weapons systems." General Adams picked up his secure phone. The President's voice came through clearly. "General, are all systems in place?" "Yes, Madam President. Every nation is ready. Our orbital platforms are in position. Ground-based defenses are prepared. Submarine-based missile systems are armed." There was a pause on the line. The weight of history hung in the air. "Very well," the President said finally. "Send our response to the Council." General Adams smiled grimly. "With pleasure, Ma'am." In space, Captain Miller received the message he had trained years for. Operation Independence is a go. Show them humanity's response. The world held its breath as Earth prepared to give the Galactic Council an answer they wouldn't forget. As the Council's massive ships loomed over Earth's major cities, the United Nations broadcast began. Every television channel, radio station, and internet stream carried the same feed. The world watched as humanity made its stand. The President of India, speaking for all Earth's nations, stood tall at the podium. High Commander Wilson, we have received your ultimatum. Allow me to show you something. Large screens behind her lit up with images that shocked the watching world. Hidden military bases emerged from beneath desert sands. Mountainsides slid open to reveal massive weapon systems. The oceans churned as submarines surfaced in coordinated displays of force. 30 years ago, she continued, our scientists decoded your first signals. We knew you were coming. We prepared. In orbit, Captain Miller watched his tactical display as thousands of hidden defense satellites dropped their camouflage. The alien ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by humanity's carefully positioned weapons platforms. High Commander Wilson's blue face appeared on screens once more, but this time his confident expression had faltered. These toys do not concern us. We have conquered civilizations far more advanced than yours. Perhaps, General Adams replied from the Pentagon, taking over the broadcast. But they'd fought alone. We are unified. The general pressed a button, revealing more of Earth's secrets. Videos played showing joint military exercises, where Chinese soldiers trained alongside Americans, Russian pilots flew with British forces, and Brazilian engineers worked with Japanese scientists. Decades of secret cooperation, all preparing for this moment. Impossible, Wilson muttered, his composure cracking. Our intelligence indicated your species was divided, constantly at war with itself. Lieutenant Rogers, on Miller's orbital platform, couldn't help but smile. They fell for it, sir, she said. All those fake conflicts we stage, all the diplomatic shows we put on. They never suspected we were working together all along. In underground bunkers across the planet, military commanders activated their systems. Indian cyber warfare teams launched their first attacks, probing the alien fleet's defenses. Russian quantum computers began breaking through the Council's encryption. Brazilian radar stations tracked every minor movement of the enemy ships. The alien flagship's weapons powered up, glowing with energy. This defiance is pointless, Wilson announced, but his voice lacked its previous authority. The Council's technology is centuries ahead of yours. Is it? The President of France stepped forward at the UN. She nodded to her technical team. On screen appeared detailed scans of the Council's ships, their weaknesses highlighted in red. We've been studying your technology since you entered our solar system. Your shields have a frequency weakness at 15.8 gigahertz. Your hull plating is vulnerable to certain isotopes. We know more than you think. Captain Miller received new data from Earth's combined intelligence services. His weapons officers updated their targeting solutions, accounting for the alien ship's vulnerabilities. Years of preparation were about to pay off. Last chance, Wilson declared, but now there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. Surrender now, or we will be forced to demonstrate our power. The response came not from any one nation, but from the United Nations Secretary-General himself, speaking for all humanity. High Commander Wilson, let us be clear. We do not want war. We would welcome peaceful contact with the Galactic Council, but we will not surrender our freedom. Not today. Not ever. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, submarine commanders powered up their specialized missiles. In secret bases across Siberia, electromagnetic pulse generators hummed to life. Hidden facilities in the Sahara Desert opened their doors, revealing rows of advanced fighter aircraft. Your answer then, Wilson said stiffly, is no. Our answer, the Secretary-General replied, is this. He nodded to General Adams, who spoke a single word into his command mic. Begin. Captain Miller's hands moved to his control panel as the order reached his station. Across Earth's orbit, other platform commanders did the same. Humanity's response to the Council's ultimatum was about to become very, very clear. The time for talking was over. The time for action had come. The Council ships made the first move. A bright beam of energy shot from the flagship, aimed at New York City. But it never reached its target. Captain Miller's orbital platform revealed itself first, its stealth systems dropping as energy shields snapped into place. "Fire countermeasures," he ordered. His crew responded instantly, launching specialized missiles that intercepted the alien beam, dispersing it harmlessly into space. High Commander Wilson's face showed genuine surprise. "Impossible. Your technology shouldn't be capable of stopping your weapons." General Adams interrupted from the Pentagon. "We've had decades to prepare, Commander. Now it's our turn." Submarine commanders in the Pacific launched their first volley. The missiles didn't shoot straight up. That would be too obvious. Instead, they curved through the ocean, emerged at carefully calculated points, and approached the alien ships from unexpected angles. Multiple missiles detected. An alien officer reported on their command channel, which Earth's computers had already cracked. But their primitive weapons cannot penetrate our. The missiles split apart mid-flight, releasing clouds of specialized particles that Earth's scientists had designed to disrupt the alien shield's specific frequencies. The Council ships' defenses flickered and weakened. "All orbital platforms, execute attack pattern Delta," Miller commanded. His weapons station was no longer alone. Dozens of others decloaked around Earth's orbit, revealing humanity's true defensive capabilities. The alien fleet scrambled to respond, but they had positioned themselves for a show of force, not an actual battle. Their formation was wrong. Their weapons were pointing at the ground, not at space. They had expected surrender, not resistance. "How?" Wilson demanded as his ships took their first hits. "Your species was supposed to be centuries away from this level of technology." Lieutenant Rogers smiled at her console as she launched another barrage. "We let you think that, sir. Every satellite you detected was a decoy. Every military base you scanned was fake. Everything you thought you knew about us was what we wanted you to know." The Council's ships began to move, trying to form a defensive pattern, but Earth was ready for this too. Chinese pulse weapons fired from hidden mountain bases, disrupting the alien ships' engines. Russian orbital platforms launched electromagnetic nets that further tangled their movements. "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers called out, "the flagship is trying to call for reinforcements." Miller nodded calmly. "Just as we expected. Activate the jammers." Across the planet, hidden transmitters powered up, filling space with carefully tuned interference. The Council ships were now cut off from the rest of their fleet. High Commander Wilson's face appeared on screens again, but now his calm facade had completely cracked. "Stop this at once. You don't understand what you're doing. The Council's retribution will be." The transmission cut off as Brazilian cyber warfare teams finally broke through the flagship's main computer defenses. The alien ship's lights flickered, its weapons powered down, and it began to drift. "All ships, maintain pressure," General Adams ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The next few minutes were a demonstration of Earth's carefully planned strategy. Missiles struck from below, orbital platforms fired from above, and electromagnetic pulses disrupted alien systems from all sides. The Council fleet, which had arrived expecting an easy victory, found itself fighting for survival. Captain Miller watched his tactical display as another alien ship lost power. "Status report," he called out. "3 enemy ships disabled." Lieutenant Rogers responded. 4 more showing critical damage to their shields. "Their formation is broken. They're losing coordination." In the Pentagon's war room, General Adams allowed himself a small smile as the reports came in. The plan was working exactly as they had hoped. Years of preparation, decades of secret development and cooperation were paying off. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Continue the attack. Show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was winning. In the depths of the Pentagon's intelligence center, Officer Emma Thompson stared at her computer screen with growing excitement. The data streaming in from the battle revealed something extraordinary. "General Adams," she called out. "I found their weakness. The Council's ships. They're all built the same way. Every single one follows the exact same design." The general moved to her station, watching as she displayed the analysis. Decades of standardization had left the Council fleet without variety, without adaptation. Every ship had the same vulnerable points, the same defensive patterns, the same response to attacks. "They've never needed to change," Thompson explained, her eyes bright with understanding. "Every species they've encountered surrendered immediately. They've never fought a real war against a unified planet." Above Earth, Captain Miller received the new intelligence data. "Update targeting solutions," he ordered his crew. "Focus fire on these exact points." He highlighted the newly identified weak spots in the alien ship's design. The Council ships were trying to regroup, but their formation was stiff, predictable. They moved like a parade ground army facing guerrilla fighters. Their computers couldn't keep up with humanity's constant changes in attack patterns. "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers reported, "the aliens are sending the same shield frequencies to all their ships. They're not even trying to vary their defenses." In space, the battle transformed. Earth's forces had already destroyed or disabled a quarter of the Council fleet. Now, with their weaknesses exposed, the fight became even more one-sided. High Commander Wilson's voice crackled over the communication channels, showing growing panic. "This is impossible. Your species only achieved spaceflight a century ago. You cannot defeat us." "You made 3 mistakes," General Adams replied calmly. "First, you thought technology alone wins wars. Second, you believed your own propaganda about humanity's weakness. But your biggest mistake, you gave us time to prepare." Another alien ship exploded as Indian missiles struck its now-known weak point. Brazilian hackers had completely disconnected 3 more from their command network. Russian electromagnetic pulses continued disrupting their standardized navigation systems. In her intelligence center, Thompson made another discovery. "General, their entire battle strategy is based on fighting single planets. They have no protocols for dealing with a unified world. Their command structure can't adapt." The Council ships began firing randomly, their carefully planned formation falling apart. Some tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by hidden Earth satellites. Others attempted to call for help, only to find their signals jammed by European broadcasting stations. "All platforms, execute attack pattern Omega," Miller commanded. His orbital station led a coordinated strike that caught the alien ships in a crossfire. Missiles from the ground joined the barrage, each one targeting the exact same vulnerabilities on different ships. In the flagship's command center, Wilson was shouting at his crew. Earth's monitoring systems picked up every word. "How are they doing this? Every system says their technology is primitive. Every scan shows they're centuries behind us. That's because we wanted your scans to show exactly that," Thompson whispered to herself, watching the data streams. "We've been feeding you false information for decades." Earth's forces pressed their advantage. The standardized Council ships had no answer for humanity's varied weapons and constantly changing tactics. Their computers, designed to fight primitive planetary defenses, were overwhelmed by the complexity of Earth's coordinated attack patterns. General Adams watched the tactical display as more enemy ships went dark. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Maximum pressure. Don't let them adapt. Don't let them learn." In orbit, Captain Miller's crew cheered as another alien vessel lost power. The Council's mighty fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was being taken apart by the very planet they had come to subjugate. The Council had made a simple but fatal mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology, not their determination. They had expected submission and found resistance. They had brought standardization to face adaptability. And they were losing badly. The sky lit up with new energy signatures as the Council's reinforcements arrived. Hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. This was no longer just a fleet, it was an armada. "They're trying to overwhelm us with numbers," General Adams observed from the Pentagon Command Center. His face remained calm as he pressed a button on his console. "Time to show them our full defensive grid." Across Earth's orbit, thousands of previously hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves. They had been waiting for this moment, deliberately holding back during the first wave of combat. The Council hadn't even seen half of humanity's true strength. Captain Miller's orbital station adjusted its position as new orders came in. "All crews, activate the AI defense networks," he commanded. "Let's show them what Earth's computers can really do." The Council ships attacked first, firing a massive barrage that they expected would overwhelm Earth's defenses. Instead, humanity's AI systems adapted in real time, analyzing each weapon's energy signature and adjusting shields accordingly. "Their battle computers are too slow," Officer Thompson reported from her intelligence station. "They're still using pre-programmed responses. Our AI is predicting their moves before they make them." In space, the battle transformed into a display of speed and adaptation. Council ships fired in rigid patterns, following their standard combat protocols. Earth's defense platforms responded with constantly changing tactics, never using the same approach twice. "Impossible," came the voice of the Council's new fleet commander. "Your artificial intelligence can't be this advanced. Our scans showed." "Your scans showed what we wanted them to show," Miller interrupted, watching as his station's AI calculated another perfect intercept course. "While you were checking our civilian networks, our military AI systems stayed hidden, learning and growing." The Council Armada tried to form a classic attack pattern, the same one that had conquered 1,000 other worlds. But Earth was ready. Hidden missile silos opened on every continent, launching specialized warheads that split into thousands of smaller projectiles. Multiple impacts detected, Lieutenant Rogers called out. "Their shields are failing. They can't adapt to so many different attack types at once." The Council ships began to break formation, their rigid command structure crumbling under the assault. Some captains tried to take independent action, but their standardized training worked against them. They had never learned to think for themselves. In the Pentagon, Thompson made another crucial discovery. "Sir, their ship's power cores, they're all using the same frequency. If we hit them with a synchronized electromagnetic pulse." General Adams didn't hesitate. "Send the codes to all platforms. Fire on my mark." Captain Miller received the new attack plan and smiled. His crew quickly adjusted their weapons, coordinating with every other defense platform in orbit. The timing had to be perfect. "All Earth forces," Adams' voice came through clear and strong. "Execute attack pattern Sigma. Now." Every defensive platform fired at exactly the same moment. The electromagnetic pulse, amplified by hundreds of synchronized shots, washed over the Council fleet. Ship after ship lost power, their standardized systems unable to handle the coordinated attack. "Direct hits across their entire fleet," Thompson reported, her voice rising with excitement. 80% of their ships are offline. The rest are losing power." The Council's mighty armada, which had expected to find a helpless planet, now drifted powerless in space. Their remaining functional ships began to retreat, breaking off in disorder. "Should we pursue?" Miller asked the command center. "Negative," General Adams replied. "Let them run. Let them tell the Council what happens when you threaten Earth." As the surviving alien ships fled, humanity's defenders maintained their positions. The battle was won, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Council would be back, and next time they would be better prepared. But so would Earth. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Officer Thompson sat at her intelligence station, watching as intercepted alien communications flooded her screens. What she saw made her smile. "General Adams," she called out. "You need to see this. The Council, it's falling apart." The general walked to her station, looking at the translated messages. Species that had been under council control for centuries were beginning to question their rulers. Earth's successful resistance had sparked something that couldn't be contained. Hope. "Sir," a communication officer interrupted. "We're receiving transmissions from 3 different council member species. They want to talk." In orbit, Captain Miller's platform detected incoming ships, but these were different. They flew with their weapons powered down and their shields lowered, a universal sign of peaceful intent. "This is Ambassador Reed of the Star People," came a new voice over the communication channels. "We witnessed your victory. We didn't think resistance was possible. We want to learn." The United Nations quickly convened an emergency session. On the main screen, representatives from various alien species appeared. Some had been part of the Council for thousands of years. Others were recent additions. All of them had watched Earth do the impossible. "Your victory has caused a political earthquake within the Council," the Star People's ambassador explained. "For millennia, they told us resistance was futile, that their technology was unbeatable. You proved them wrong." General Adams studied the tactical reports as more council ships broke away from their fleets. The mighty empire that had seemed unshakable was crumbling. Not from Earth's weapons, but from the idea that freedom was possible. In her intelligence center, Thompson discovered something even more significant. "The Council's economy is collapsing," she reported. "They spent so much on their standardized fleets, on maintaining control. Without absolute obedience from their member species, the whole system is failing." Captain Miller's orbital platform received new orders: escort diplomatic vessels. Ships from former Council worlds were arriving hourly now, not to fight, but to establish relations with Earth. Each one brought valuable intelligence about Council weaknesses. Their entire empire was built on fear, Ambassador Reed explained to the UN Assembly. "Fear of their technology, fear of their fleet, fear of standing alone. But you showed us that unity and preparation matter more than advanced technology." The Council tried to maintain control, but their threats rang hollow now. Every time they demanded obedience, species would point to Earth and ask, "If they could resist, why can't we?" "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers called out from her station on Miller's platform, "more Council ships are switching sides. Their crews are refusing orders to attack other resistance movements." In the Pentagon, General Adams watched the galactic map as more and more systems declared independence from the Council. The empire that had lasted for thousands of years was unraveling in days. "They made another mistake," Thompson observed, reading through more intercepted communications. "They never created bonds between their member species. No trade, no cultural exchange, no real alliances, just submission to the Council." Earth's leaders began receiving requests for military advisors, for training, for help in developing defensive systems. Humanity, the species that had seemed so primitive, was now teaching others how to defend themselves. The Council's biggest mistake, Ambassador Reed told the UN, was thinking that technology alone brings victory. "You taught us that spirit, unity, and the will to resist matter more." As the Council's power crumbled, Earth found itself at the center of a new galactic alliance. Not an empire built on fear and submission, but a partnership of free worlds, each bringing their own strengths and ideas. The Council had wanted to add another conquered world to their collection. Instead, they had triggered their own downfall and given birth to something new. A galaxy where freedom was possible, where resistance had meaning, and where humanity was no longer alone. 1 month after Earth's victory, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. Where once only Council leaders had sat, now representatives from Earth and other free worlds filled the chamber. Captain Miller, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood at the podium. "The old Council is gone," he announced, looking at the diverse gathering of species before him. "In its place, we propose a new alliance. Not an empire, but a true partnership of worlds." General Adams watched the proceedings from Earth via quantum transmission. Besides him, Officer Thompson continued monitoring communications from across the galaxy. The data showed a transformed political landscape. The last Council Loyalist fleet surrendered this morning, Thompson reported. Their economic system has completely collapsed. Without forced tributes from member worlds, they couldn't maintain their military. In the Great Hall, former High Commander Wilson sat in the defendant's chair, his once proud uniform now stripped of rank. "You don't understand what you've done," he protested. "Without the Council's control, there will be chaos." "No," Miller responded calmly. "There will be freedom. And with freedom comes responsibility. Each world will defend itself, trade for itself, and govern itself. But we will stand together against any new threat that tries to dominate others." Lieutenant Rogers, now Miller's chief of staff, presented the new alliance treaty on the chamber's main screen. It was different from anything the galaxy had seen before. No demands for submission, no tribute requirements, just mutual defense, free trade, and respect for each world's sovereignty. "Earth is not seeking to replace the Council as rulers," Miller continued. "We've seen what empire building leads to. Instead, we offer our experience in resistance, in adaptation, in working together despite differences." The Star People's Ambassador Reed stood up. "We support this new alliance. Earth showed us that unity doesn't require uniformity. That strength comes from diversity, not standardization." Back on Earth, General Adams received reports from military advisors now stationed across the galaxy. Former Council worlds were developing their own defense systems, learning from Earth's example of preparation and innovation. "The galaxy's changing fast," Thompson observed, studying her data screens. "New trade routes are opening. Species that never communicated under Council rule are exchanging ideas. It's like watching 1,000 flowers bloom at once." In the Council chamber, Miller activated a holographic display showing the new Galactic Defense Network. Unlike the Council's rigid system, this one was flexible, adaptable, built on cooperation rather than control. "To any future power that thinks of conquest," he announced, "know this. We stand ready, not as masters and slaves, but as equals. We come in peace, but we'll defend our freedom with everything we have." The chamber erupted in cheers. Species that had once feared each other now stood together. The Council's fall had opened the way for something new. A galaxy where cooperation replaced conquest, where diversity was strength, where freedom wasn't just a dream. On his orbital platform, now a key part of the new alliance's defense network, Captain Miller's replacement looked out at Earth. The planet that had seemed so alone just months ago was now the heart of a growing partnership of worlds. Final status report. General Adams requested from the Pentagon. "All systems normal," Thompson replied. "The galaxy is stabilizing. New trade agreements are being signed daily. Former Council worlds are developing their own unique defense systems. And Earth," she smiled, "Earth is no longer alone." In the Great Hall, as the new Alliance Charter was signed, Miller thought about how far they'd come. The Council had expected to find a primitive, helpless world. Instead, they'd found humanity. Adaptable, determined, and ready to fight for freedom. They'd come to demand Earth's surrender. They'd gotten missiles instead. And now, the galaxy was better for it. The end.